10 cards have been spoiled so far for the second set in Star Wars Unlimited, Shadows of the Galaxy, and I can already tell that I'm going to be buying way too much of this product. So with all that aside, let's get right into it. Hello and welcome to the table. I'm your host, Team Wolf, and today we're going to be talking about Shadows of the Galaxy, all the leaders that have been spoiled, the legendaries that have been spoiled, the uniques that have been spoiled, all that good stuff. So, with all that aside, let's get right into it, starting off and talking about Moff Gideon, which is a black and green leader that has an action ability of exhausting Moff Gideon and attacking with a unit that costs 3 or less. And if you're attacking an enemy unit, then that attack is getting +1 power. So it's basically saying overwhelm the opponent and kill their stuff, and it's like an improved version of IG-88, pretty much. And it deploys at 5 resources like IG-88, and it is a 3/6 with overwhelm, and gives each other friendly unit +1 power and overwhelm when attacking an enemy unit. So again, this is like an improved version of IG-88, and this card looks like it's gonna be pretty spicy, not gonna lie, but not as spicy as the Mandolorian, which is yellow and white, for a leader that says when an upgrade enters play under your control, you can exhaust the Mandalorian and exhaust an enemy unit that costs 4 or less resources. So this is very interesting because upgrades currently aren't super great. They're not played in too many decks. And I don't know, it's very interesting, but I feel like this could be a really powerful leader, depending on what upgrades, or what other upgrades, I guess is what I should be saying, are spoiled in this set. Because if they're as good as the ones that have already been spoiled, this is going to be a very fun hero to build around. But this deploys at 6 resources into a 4/7 that whenever a upgrade comes into play, exhausts an enemy unit that costs 4 or less. That's good. That's great. But getting past the leaders, let's talk about the rest of the cards. The first one being Phase 3 Dark Trooper, which is a black and green card that's just a strictly better version of Cell Block guard for black and green decks, because this is a 3/3 with Sentinel that costs 3 resources like a Cell Block guard, except it has a bonus effect of when this unit takes combat damage and survives, put an experience token on it. So it gets a little bit bigger for every attack that it survives, and that's pretty good, especially considering it has Sentinel. And, I mean, Cell Block Guard is already a pretty playable card in the villainous class aspect, but in black and green, I feel like this is just going to be a much better version of it that a lot of black and green decks, especially Moff Gideon, are going to be running. Then there's Calculated Lethality, I think. This card is easily the worst card that's been spoiled, but it's a blue and black 4-cost event that destroys a unit that with a resource cost of 3 or less, and for each upgrade that was on that unit, you put an experience token on one of your units. I mean, I get why this is a super rare and in the Moff Gideon starter product, going against the Mandalorian starter deck, because the Mandalorian cares a lot about upgrades, but outside of that, I just don't think this card's going to see play in pretty much anything. Maybe some sideboard play here and there, but I doubt it. But then we got the next card, which I think is pretty much a must-play in Gideon. Gideon's Light Cruiser. It is a black 8-cost 7/8 space unit with Overwhelm and the effect of when played, if you control a Moff Gideon leader or unit, so there's going to be a legendary version of Moff Gideon, I'm predicting, because I'll get into that in a second. But when this comes into play, if you control Moff Gideon leader or unit, you can play a villainous card from your hand or your discard pile for free. So you're getting a lot of value out of this, kind of like a home one at home, as some people are calling it. And it's also a really good body. And I don't know, I just feel like this is a really good card for the Moff Gideon deck. And I feel like basically any Moff Gideon deck that you are going to be playing, you're going to be running 3 copies of this. Just depending, I mean, I highly doubt that they're going to make a card that's better than this, the Moff Gideon deck for the late game. So yeah, I don't know. This card just looks great for Gideon. But then we got Mandalorian's Rifle, which also looks nuts for the Mandalorian deck, because you can put this out on the same turn as the Mandalorian and do pretty busted things. So it is a white 3-cost upgrade that gives the attached unit plus 3 power, and you equip it to a non-vehicle unit, by the way. But if the attached unit is the Mandolorian, so that includes both the leader and the unit, which is a legendary card I'll talk about later. But when it comes into play, if it's attached to the Mandalorian, you capture an enemy unit. So what does that mean? Because it's a new keyword, what does that mean? Well, you take a card from the enemy's arena, you put it face down under the Mandalorian until he leaves play. So if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, you know cards like Werefox Bodyguard, where you just take a card, put it under this card, and then once this card goes away, the opponent gets it back. It's like temporary removal, and considering the fact that this card turns the Mandalorian into a 7/7, immediately exhausts a thing, and gets rid of a thing, like this card just seems nuts in the Mandalorian. And yeah, anyways, let's get into the next card, Wanted, which is also showing a new effect, and it's a yellow 0-cost upgrade, and it gives the attached unit plus 0 power and health, which is very interesting, but I mean it costs 0. And you attach it to a unit, and the attached unit gets bounty. So when the thing with bounty dies or becomes captured, whoever controls the bounty reaps the rewards, which in this case are readying 2 resources. So what you want to do with bounty in this card is put it on an enemy's thing, kill that said thing, and then you get to ready 2 resources, or you can capture it. But still, that seems really good, especially in combination with the next card, the Razor Crest, which is blue and white for a 4-cost 3/4 units in space that has Restore 2. That's already pretty good. But then here's the thing. You can return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand, like a Wanted, like a Mandalorian's rifle, like probably a lot of the upgrades in this set that are going to be really good, because all the cards that I've showed you so far, except Wanted, are all in the starter product, which I don't think a fair amount of these cards are going to be more powerful than cards in the set. So I think there's going to be some pretty powerful upgrades in the main set, beyond the ones that are in this product and Wanted. But here's the thing, I just think Razor Crest for a 4 resource, 3/4, Restore 2 body in space, great. But the added bonuses that you can get from it are just awesome. Then there's Grogu, which I think is easily the most powerful card out of all the ones I'm going to show you, because it's a yellow and white 2-cost, so you can put it on turn 1, 0/5. As an action, you can exhaust Grogu and exhaust an enemy unit. And oh, by the way, that's not restricted by cost or what type of unit it is. You can exhaust leader unit that the opponent controls, space unit, ground unit, doesn't matter. Any unit you want, this thing can exhaust, because it's just so adorable. But here's the thing, if you can get this out in the early game, you can just get so much advantage out of it, because you just keep exhausting opponent's stuff every single turn, and eventually they're gonna have to deal with it, or else you're just gonna keep getting value every turn by exhausting their best unit, or eventually their leader units. So it's just oh my god, it's so good. Especially in combination with the next card, the Mandalorian. The legendary version, that's a unit, not the leader. But it's a blue and white, 5/6, 4/6, with Sentinel. So it's the same stat line as Obi-Wan. I think right now it's slightly worse than Obi-Wan, which is not too good considering that this is a legendary. But I think with some support, this card could be very good, especially if we get more really good 2-drops like Grogu. Because this says, when played, restore all health from a unit that costs 2 or less, like a Grogu, and give it 2 shield tokens. Now, I'm going to try to make this brief. I cannot describe to any of you watching just how good 2 shields is versus 1 shield. That 1 extra shield is way better than you would think, especially if it's on a Sentinel thing. If we get any cards that can be run in the Mandalorian deck that cost 2 or less, and they have Sentinel, oh my god, this card will just go from okay, this is a pretty good legendary, slightly worse than Boba Fett, to yeah, so this card can get very broken very easily. But right now, this card's just okay. And a lot of these cards are super awesome looking and just getting me super hyped for this set. Leave a comment down below what you think about the cards that have been spoiled so far. And for all that aside, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. And for all that aside, enjoy Shadows of the Galaxy and the spoilers that have been shown so far and all the art that is now consistent. See you next time, everybody. Enjoy.